The incy-wincy spider climbed up the water spout. Out came the doctor and shit the spider out. Ike! Hello, Whovians, and welcome to this very special Doctor Who review, where today I review the fifth and final serial of Jon Pertwee's fifth and final season of Doctor Who, which is the 74th Doctor Who story, and it is also Jon Pertwee's final story as the third Doctor. Planet of the Spiders, yes. A very historical Doctor Who story on a number of accounts, but mainly being the fact that this is the final story for the third Doctor. It's not his final story ever, but in terms of his regular stories, this is his last story. Okay, here we are, folks. The synopsis of this story is: the blue crystal that the Doctor took from Metabilis 3 in a previous adventure is desperately sought by 8 legs, or the Spiders, a race of mutated spiders, as the final element in their plan for universal domination. With the help from an old mentor, the Doctor realizes the only way to foil the plot is to make the ultimate sacrifice. The Doctor must risk death to return to the cave of the Great One and save the universe. And that, in a nutshell, is the basic premise of Planet of the Spiders. Once again, Nicholas Payne lent me the DVD. Thank you very much for that, my friend. I appreciate it. And you'll have your DVDs back very soon. Oh, you know, I was getting very concerned with this season. I mean, this season 11 is a very uneven season. The Time Warrior was great. Invasion of the Dinosaurs was rubbish. Death to the Daleks was good. Monster of Peladon was rubbish. Thankfully, this restored my hope that Jon Pertwee had a great exit. Bravo. Absolutely phenomenal. Fantastic ending to Jon Pertwee's era as the Doctor. Thank God they didn't fuck this one up. Whew. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we were all worried when watching season 11 that Jon Pertwee would get a short shrift in his exit, but no. I mean, it may not be quite as epic as the War Games with Patrick Troughton, but to me, this is a great ending for Jon Pertwee. I think he went out at the right time, and I think he went out on the best note possible. The story itself is just phenomenal. I mean, even though it isn't as epic as the War Games, it is pretty intense. You know, I really like the idea of the crystals and the spiders. I think it works really well. The first half of the story is kind of a build-up. The story is a bit long. I mean, it's 6 parts, but for me it works as 6 parts. I like the build-up in the first part when we're trying to discover more about the spiders, and then there's actually quite a lot of action in this story. The Doctor pursues what's his name, Lupton. Lupton. Yeah, pursues Lupton because Lupton is being controlled by one of the spiders. He's pursuing him on through car, you know, using Bessie, as well as an aerial chase, which is just amazing. And then it all leads to a big confrontation on the planet Metabilis 3, which I like. Perhaps we could have got to Metabilis 3 a bit sooner, but I don't really think that's a huge problem. I like the build-up, and thankfully it doesn't drag the story. You know, all of the story elements are very interesting. I'll talk more about Jon Pertwee a little bit later, but I also like the fact that they undid what they did wrong in Invasion of the Dinosaurs by making Yates evil, which was such a ridiculous thing to do. But thankfully, they in the story we see Yates, you know, sort of he's been discharged from unit, so they've sacked him, and he's now he's now at this meditation center, and he meets up with Sarah Jane, and he's noticing something a bit odd, and him and Sarah work together to try and solve the mystery of what's going on. So at least Yates gets a bit of a redemption arc. I mean, it's better than nothing, you know. It at least is by way of an apology of the invasion of the dinosaurs. I think Barry Letts and the team knew I think they even realised, what the hell did we do that for? Why did we do that to Yates? But I mean, and this would actually be, I believe, Richard Franklin's final appearance as Yates. Although I hear he has a few cameos in future stories, but this is his last regular appearance. So they had to at least undo what they did wrong before. I really like the Great One, the spiders. I mean, the voice can be a bit over the top at times, but it works. I mean, she's this arrogant queen. She's self-proclaimed, you know. She wants the crystals without realizing the true power of the crystals. But I like the voice. The voice works. Particularly that first spider who attaches itself to Lupton. And I think the design of the spiders looks great. I mean, this is why I think Classic Who, you know, it's not all bad effects, and I think the practical effects done on the spiders are very impressive here, for the time anyway. I mean, some of the back projection green screen is really dated now, but you know, you have to forgive that. It's not like Invasion of the Dinosaurs, where it was literally toy dinosaurs fighting each other. God. And I absolutely love the design of the Spider's Cave. The cave is great. I really wish that we'd spent a bit more time there, actually, because it's such a brilliant setting to look upon, and it's really impressive. I think the Doctor Who team should be very proud of that. Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith. She is fantastic in this story. She plays a whole range of emotions. She goes back to her kind of journalism detective side of her personality. And I really love her relationship with the Doctor here. They definitely have a strong bond. I mean, obviously, clearly not like Jo. I suppose it would have been nice to have Jo in Pertwee's final story, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Jo left when she left, so I guess it made sense. But I think Sarah Jane is great, and there's a moment like when the Doctor is injured in part 4, I believe, when the Doctor arrives at Metabolus 3, he gets injured in a fight, and then she has to try and take control. She goes into the TARDIS and gets a weapon and all that. So Sarah Jane is very forward-thinking. She's she's very courageous, and I like that about her. And she definitely proves that she is worthy of joining him in the TARDIS in this story. I think also the Brigadier is great as well. Even though he's not in the story a huge amount, but when he's there, he's pretty good. I like Nicholas Courtney as the Brig, and I love his final line, "Here we go again," obviously for the regeneration, but we'll talk about that in a bit. I like the supporting cast. Lupton is good. I think the actor that portrays him is very good. You can see he's sort of conflicted a little bit, because John Dirth, who plays Lupton, I think that when he gets at first, when the spider comes onto his back, he's not really sure how to really take it. And then eventually he decides he wants to use the crystals for the sake of, you know, becoming, you know, famous on Earth. And, you know, he wants it for his own, he's got his own personal gain. So he's still a villain. He's just being controlled by another villain. And I like that the villains have some conflicts in the story as well, which is great. Already talked about Yates. Benton is pretty good. I don't remember him being in the story that much. I think he's in it a fair amount. More in the first half of the story, but he's still good. I like the character of Tommy as well. He's essentially this kind of man in a child's body. In the beginning of the story, he's kind of this... I think he's got some kind of special needs or some kind of learning disability. And he looks into the crystal, and it actually enhances his intelligence, which is really interesting. And then when he changes his performance, it proves to be something very interesting. And I think the actor, John Kane, should be very proud of his performance, because it's a very interesting dynamic. It's almost like he's playing two different characters, really. I like the sets. I think it's wonderfully directed by Barry Letts. Barry Letts, of course, wrote. Well, no, he didn't write the story. Sorry, Robert Sloman wrote the story, and he wrote a great script. Directed by Barry Letts, some of his best direction I've ever seen, and he also produced it. So, because I think the production team on the show at the time were leaving, a lot of people were leaving, obviously including Pertwee. So I guess Barry Letts wanted one more chance to kind of just go out on a home run, and they really did. They really did. The pacing is fantastic, much better than the previous story. Thank God. I didn't find myself getting bored at all. Really, it flowed perfectly. And of course, Jon Pertwee, the man himself, probably one of his best performances. And I really like the fact that in this story, this his final story, we get to see a side of him that we've never seen before. He's actually frightened. We get to see the Doctor facing his fears, and that becomes a great theme throughout this story. Like, you know, it says a lot when you have a story where the Doctor is scared. He's actually physically scared, because he has to face death or potential regeneration. And he even says to the other Time Lord, Kanpo, he says, "There's no other way." And he says, "Yeah, there's no other way." So, yeah. But, I mean, it just shows how brave the Doctor is, that he would literally die to save you know, the universe. On many occasions, not just this one. And also Campo, he's a really interesting character. We actually see his regeneration in the story as well, which is really interesting, which preludes the third Doctor's regeneration, obviously, and he actually ends up looking like one of the other characters, which is really, really interesting. Yeah, so, not quite sure how he got there, but he's good nonetheless. I mean, there are some weird scenes in this story, like all the stuff in the meditation center is a little bit strange. There are aspects of that which I don't quite understand, but whatever. Nevertheless, the music is very good. I love the tension in this story, and I said the action is great. There's a lot of fight sequences, and Pertwee still shows his kung fu side of things. And he's still very, very good in those final action sequences that he films. He's still fighting fit. He's a very active man, Jon Pertwee. And of course, when we get to the finale in part 6, when the Great One is, of course, destroyed by the crystal, and she didn't realise it, and then the Doctor manages to escape. Although I believe it's something to do with the crystals that causes regeneration. He was at the midst of the explosion, and he sort of just made it out alive, but it took the crystals, I think, took all his energy or something. I'm not entirely sure. It's a little unclear, but nevertheless, the final scene of the story, when he emerges out of the TARDIS and he falls on the floor, and Sarah and the brig watch him as he regenerates. And of course, we get to see a cameo from the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker. He, of course, is going to be the replacement. See him for a brief few seconds here, but it's nice to see him, of course. And Pertwee's final moment is kind of bittersweet. It's kind of sad. I don't think it had quite the feels that Patrick Troughton's exit had, because that was a much longer, much more drawn out story, the War Games. But I still liked Pertwee's final moments in the show. It was you know, a bit teary-eyed. He was like, "Oh, Sarah, we've got a tear there," you know. And his acting was very good there, and I liked that Sarah Jane shed a tear for the Doctor, which was really nice. It's a fantastic story. It's very well written. It looks phenomenal, and it's probably without question the best of the season. And it's a fantastic exit for Jon Pertwee. I also liked at the start of the story with Professor Cleary, I think his name was. I think his name's Professor Cleary. If I'm wrong, then do correct me. When he's got the machine on, and there's the screen that's depicting his kind of you know, visual interpretations. You know, he's some kind of a magician performer, and he sort of deciphers the crystal before they open the packet, which I think is really interesting. But yeah, overall, this is a phenomenal story. I really, really enjoy it. And goodbye, Jon Pertwee. You've been an amazing Doctor. 5 seasons came to an end in such a brilliant way. Even though the season itself is very is very shaky, but it's there's definitely more good than bad. So thank God for that. But yeah. So on a final note, I'm going to score Planet of the Spiders a 10 out of 10. So, without further ado, yeah, that's it. That's the end of Jon Pertwee's era. But before we say goodbye to Jon Pertwee, we must of course do the mini ranking of the season, as this is also the end of season 11. So, if you'll indulge me for a moment. Number 5, at the very bottom of this list, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Yeah. Number 4, The Monster of Peladon. Number 3, Death to the Daleks. Number 2, The Time Warrior. And number 1, of course, Planet of the Spiders. So, that is that, folks. That is season 11 ranked, and all the stories reviewed. So, all that's left to say now is, Jon Pertwee, thank you very much. You were a fantastic Doctor. Jon Pertwee was a bit more of a different take than the previous two. William Hartnell was kind of the bumbling old fool, and it was sort of he was more like of a grandfatherly figure. Patrick Troughton was like a goofball, and he took it in a more sillier, zany direction, which worked for the comedy of the character. This, I like that Jon Pertwee played the role fairly straight. You know, he had his humorous moments. Generally speaking, he plays the role pretty straight and pretty serious. But I like that about him, and he's more action orientated, and there's a few more gadgets in the cars, and there's definitely influences of James Bond in his Doctor. He is the James Bond of Doctor Who, of all the Doctors. I think Pertwee even admitted himself he was very much a fan of all those kind of things, and obviously his era began on Earth, and it mostly stays on Earth. There are times when he does go off to other planets and faces other aliens, but the majority of his era is on Earth. But that was a different direction, and I like that they had to do that. And after Patrick Troughton left, I think he handled the role very well. His 5 seasons overall are very good. I mean, he's probably the second longest serving Doctor with 5 seasons. His first season I really like, even though it isn't perfect. Same with season 8, I think that's a good season. Season 9 is probably his weakest, his most disappointing. Season 10 is his best, definitely, and season 11 is a decent season, but it's a very mixed bag. So I think overall his era is good. There are a few duds in there, you know, there are a couple of rants that I did on some of his stories. There are just a few disappointing stories, maybe a few more than the previous two, but Doctors. But that being said, I really like Jon Pertwee as the Doctor. I think he's great. He's definitely one of the best, and he will forever be remembered. And he had some great companions as well, and there was definitely more involvement with the unit as well. And I really liked the way they did it in his era. I really liked the way they did it. I will miss Jon Pertwee. He's a great Doctor, and I will finish with a toast to Jon Pertwee, the third Doctor. Got a nice cream soda. So yeah, well done, Jon Pertwee. Thank you very much. We'll miss you. And special shout out to Alan Kalo, because Alan Kalo, this is Jon Pertwee is his favourite Doctor. So yeah, I can totally see why Alan loves this story. I mean, why would he not? So that being said, we now move on to season 12 with Tom Baker. Woo! The big granddaddy of them all. I mean, what people like to call the mammoth era of the show. Tom Baker, 7 years, 7 seasons. This is going to be a long one, folks. This is going to be a long slog, but it will be worth it. Yeah, so next time on Doctor Who Review, I will review Robots, which is the opener to season 12. But until then, I will finish up with a short tribute to Jon Pertwee. So, Jon Pertwee, thank you very much for your contributions to the show. We will miss you, and we'll see you for the anniversary special, of course, the 5 Doctors. But until then, thank you very much. I'm Mr. TARDIS 11. Goodbye for now.